I'm going to start the recording and I'm going to let them take it away.
Thank you, Kristen. If you want to go ahead and advance to the next slide. My name is Rebecca Harrison, and I'm the manager of adult services at Tulsa City County Library, and I'm very excited that we get to talk to you today about one of my favorite topics, which is adult programming. So in my experience, adult programming comes with its own unique set of challenges. And for me, one of the biggest challenges is actually coming up with an idea that is good enough to get the adults in your community to get off of their couch at the end of the day and come into the library for a program. I don't know about all of you, but sometimes the last thing I want to do when I get home after a long day of work is to then leave my house again. So we really have to be nimble, flexible, and creative when coming up with ideas for our adult programs. We also have to be willing to fail. You know, sometimes our programs are going to flop, and that's inevitable, and that's okay. It just means we try again with a different idea, try a different time slot, mix it up until we find something that really does resonate with the adults in our community. So the goal of this presentation is hopefully if your programming reservoir is running dry and you're looking for a little inspiration, we are going to be talking about what has worked for us, and hopefully something there will resonate with you and your community. So the format of this presentation is actually based on an event that we do at TCCL called Take 5, and I will go into more detail about that event in just a little bit. But today we have 5 speakers, and each speaker has 5 minutes to talk about 5 different adult programs that they have delivered to their public. In the official Take 5, there's actually a timer going off, and you really have to stick to that 5-minute limit, so it can be very high octane. We're just going to on good faith, try to stick to the 5-minute limit here today. So it's going to be a pretty fast-paced, but there are lots of handouts, as Kristen mentioned, that will be available at the conclusion of the presentation, going into more detail about what we talk about today, and plus we'll have time for questions at the end of the presentation. So I think we'll go to the next slide and get started with a little quick poll. Obviously, we are living in very unique times, so we just kind of wanted to get a quick survey of how is your library handling adult programming in light of COVID. So A is all virtual, B is all in person, C is kind of a mix, and D is you've put a hold on programming for the time being. So if you could just chime in the poll. Let's see. Can we see the results? Okay. So the vast majority is all virtual, and it doesn't look like anybody is all in person, which is a little reassuring. And we've suspended all programming, which 25% makes total sense. I mean, it is a very chaotic time. So that's good to know. And all of the programs that we're talking about today, we've tried to include ways to make these programs suitable for the virtual format. So hopefully you'll be able to take these programs and jump right into offering them, even though we are in these very unprecedented times. Alrighty, so I'm going to jump in. I'm our first speaker. If you could go to the next slide. So I wanted to start by talking about the program that actually inspired the format of this presentation, and that is Take 5. This is an annual event that we hold at TCCL, usually in conjunction with the Adult Summer Reading Program. It's great to have a theme for this event, and so Adult Summer Reading Program has a theme that lends itself well to that. So basically, we have 5 readers from within the Tulsa City County Library system and then from the larger Tulsa community who come and speak about 5 books that they really enjoyed, but they only have 5 minutes to talk about all 5 books. So about a minute per book. It's a very fast-paced, and it is a great opportunity to grow that to-be-read shelf for your Goodreads list. The theme for our most recent one was Many Voices. So the way the theme works, basically we choose a theme. In this case, we looked for folks who were from diverse backgrounds and life experiences and asked them to speak about books about related to different forms of diversity. And so at the end of the program, the attendees have 25 brand new book recommendations to take home with them. We typically have a bookmark that lists all of the books talked about during the program, and then we have a table filled with all of the books that we discussed so the attendees can check out anything that they were intrigued by at the end of the event. We actually offered this year's program virtually, as you can see from the screenshot, and it actually worked out really well. Although we couldn't have books available for checkout right there at the event, we did have a BiblioCommons list of everything that was discussed, so folks could go put the items on hold and pick those up during curbside. Next slide. So I am a huge cat lover, so I really wanted to offer a program that would benefit the stray cats living in the Tulsa County community, and that is where this idea came from. So due to the cost of materials associated with this program, we limited this class to about 8 people. If you require the attendees to supply their own materials, you could feasibly have a much larger class, but we didn't want to do that in this instance. So we used plastic Rubbermaid bins, which you can see in the photo. That was the most expensive element of the cat shelters. And then those were layered with a styrofoam cooler and then packed with straw. And I was able to get a bale of straw from a local farm supply company for like $5. It was enough to probably make about 1,000 cat shelters. So there is a handout that you can look at after this that walks you step by step through the process of making the cat shelters. And this is also a great opportunity to just educate people in the community about caring for feral cats in their community and how they can help. And I really recommend this program for the fall or winter when temperatures start to drop, because that is when these feral cat shelters are needed the most. And one pro tip is use straw and not hay, because hay is absorbent and sucks in the moisture, whereas the straw repels it, and that keeps the shelter warm. And this was a very popular event, and as you can tell, we got some cute pictures out of it as well. Next slide, please. So speed friending was inspired by my move to Tulsa 3 years ago. I realized pretty quickly that it can be challenging for adults to meet new people and make friends in a new community. And I wanted to offer something for our customers who are looking to expand their real-life social network. So that is where speed friending came from. It's set up very similarly to speed dating, but there's not a romantic element at all. It's about making friends. And our first speed friending event was women only. That is optional. You could include a mix of genders, but we sort of promoted it as a networking event for women, and that worked really well. We had about 30 attendees. The first half were given an assigned number, and then were told to sit at the corresponding numbered table, and then the other half just rotated between tables. And we had a PowerPoint presentation with discussion questions projected on the wall to try to keep the conversation flowing, because it can get a little awkward when you're meeting new people. And we also encouraged the attendees to exchange business cards at the conclusion of the program. And we got a lot of really good feedback about that one. It could definitely work in the virtual environment as well, especially if you use Zoom and try to use the breakout Zoom feature. I think that could work. We hope to offer it again in the virtual format. Next slide, please. So this is a really selfish program because I'm a very big spelling nerd, and I miss showing off for people how great I am at spelling. And I figured there were maybe some people in the community who also missed the thrill that comes along with competitive spelling. So that is where the Adult Spelling Bee came from. And we are actually about to have our 3rd annual Adult Spelling Bee, and we will be offering it online. So I'm in the process of figuring out exactly how that's going to work. But this one is a very simple, very cost-effective program. You can have prizes for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place, but a printed certificate bestows just as much honor, in my opinion, as an actual prize. The lady pictured here won the Oklahoma State Spelling Bee when she was younger, and she really enjoyed the opportunity to show off her spelling skills again, because as adults, we don't really get the opportunity to do that without coming across as really obnoxious. So this is a great way to do that without the fear of judgment. Basically, you just need 3 staff people, not even 3, 1 to 3 staff persons, a list of increasingly difficult spelling words, and then you hold it similar to the Scripps National Spelling Bee. And actually in the handout, I've provided the list that we used last year for the spelling words, so it really puts itself together. Okay, next slide. Okay, my last program, I feel like I'm going kind of fast, but 5 minutes. Short Story Cafe. This is for adults who love to read and socialize, but maybe they don't have time to read an entire novel. I don't know about you all, but sometimes work, life, and everything in between gets so busy and hectic that I don't have time to sit down and read an entire book. So Short Story Cafe comes in because short stories are a wonderful genre, and they don't take nearly as long to read as a full-fledged novel. So we had our first Short Story Cafe just a couple of weeks ago, and we did it virtually through Zoom. Prior to the program, we emailed the selected short story to anyone who had registered for the event. You can also build in time into the program for folks to read the story during the program, so there's even less prep work for the attendees. And then staff led everyone who attended in a discussion, and we read The Paper Menagerie by Ken Liu, which tackles some pretty deep themes in a very short format. So it talks about immigration, assimilation, family, and it has won the Hugo and Nebula Awards. There are amazing short stories out there that would provide at least an hour of rich discussion for your attendees. So this is a great way to pull in people who want to join a book club but just don't have the time for a typical book club. And another great thing about this program is it's completely free. And obviously, if you held it in person, you could offer snacks and coffee and all that good stuff, but those are not required for a successful short story program. And I believe we have another poll coming. So we want to see which of the ideas that we talk about in our presentations you're most excited to try out at your library. So the corresponding letter goes with the program. Take 5, DIY cat shelters, speed friending, adult spelling bee, short story cafe. So I'll give you a second to participate. Okay, so it's kind of a close one. It looks like speed friending came out on top, squeaked out adult spelling bee. So good to know. And now I am going to turn the presentation over to Carissa Kellerby.
Hello, I'm Carissa Kellerby, and I am the Assistant Manager of the Hardesty Regional Library, and I'm also the Interim Manager of the Jenks Library for the Tulsa City County Library System. Next slide, please. So this first one is called Novel Talk, and it's a panel discussion themed on a specific fiction title with 3 to 4 special guests and a moderator. The theme of the novel can be tied to a larger program like summer reading or a distinguished author award, or it can just be its own standalone program. The panelists should be experts on the topic in some way or avid readers of the book's subject or genre, and be a mix of library staff as well as community members. The discussion questions are written out ahead of time and sent to the speaker so they can prepare a little bit. And then the moderator, they don't have to stick to the list of the questions. They can ask their own and kind of just go with the flow of the conversation. Attendees are encouraged to read the book before the program, and they can also ask questions either throughout or at the end. And the costs on this are really optional. We've had good luck at getting panelists to do it for free because they're excited to talk about a book. But you can also provide refreshments or give copies of the book to the panelists once they agree to participate, as well as give away a copy or 2 as door prizes. This event worked really well on Zoom when we did it a few weeks ago as part of our summer reading program. Next slide. So I'm a writer, and so I've tried several different types of writing programs at my branch with varying levels of success. I'm going to talk about a few that have worked well for me, and I've got more details on the handouts of how to do each of these. The first type is a craft lecture. So it features different aspects of the writing process, like developing characters, creating a writing habit, or outlining your plot. and it can be done as either a series or just a standalone. And they can be taught either by a library staff member or an outside guest. The local author talks are always really popular because aspiring authors are always eager to learn how a publisher, how an author got published, what advice they have, and what their writing process is. And this is really the only option that may require some sort of fee. The workshop style takes the most planning. The biggest decision involved is how often that you will meet and whether members will read their selections in the meeting and receive critique on it, or email them out beforehand to allow more time for discussion in the meeting. And it's important as well to establish a code of conduct to ensure that the feedback is constructive and phrased in a way where the goal is to encourage the writers. And then the easiest type of program is simply to create a space for writers to come and write. You can provide music, occasional refreshments, but really the sole purpose is just to have a place without many distractions where they can come and do some work. Next slide, please. So this is the largest scale program. We had a book club party. We've done 2 of them now. And our goal for this program was to showcase all of the library's book clubs to attract new members. But you can also use this as a way to find out what types of book clubs your community is interested in as well. The budget can be as low or as high as you want it to be, but I would say plan for a big crowd. The first year that we offered it, we were going to be happy if 30 people came, and we got 175. So people are really interested in book clubs right now with all the celebrity book clubs and things like that. So we offered several games and activities that allowed the attendees to interact with each other, like book bingo, where they would go and talk to each other about what books that they've read off of the bingo sheet. We also had book talks and a book walk where we gave away books for prizes instead of cakes. And our giveaways were ARCs that we had gotten from our collection management department. So that was really great because that was basically no cost for the prizes. And then we also featured a table of all of the books that were read by all the library's book clubs in the previous year that people could check out. The highlight of the program, though, is having each of the book club leaders talk for a few minutes about their clubs, the types of books that they read, and when and where they meet. Next slide. So creative bullet journaling has been very popular at several of our branches, and this can be for newbies or those who just want to take their bullet journaling to the next level. You start by covering the basics of how to set up your journal, how to use the different symbols, like in this picture here, and then focusing on what they would like to use their journals to record. You can create booklets for them to practice by using free grid paper that I've included in a link on the handouts. And then you just staple those pages together. And after you cover the basics, you can highlight some of the unique ways that you can use bullet journaling, like for a reading journal, habit tracker, food diary, fitness tracker. There are so many ideas out there, and I have links to different options as well. And it's also fun to have some supplies on hand based on your budget. And this can include multicolored pens, pencils, stencils, stickers, washi tape. And a lot of the supplies that you purchase can be reused for future programs as well. So that's very cost effective. And so the participants would practice on their booklets with the techniques that they learn, as well as get to play with the supplies while you do a PowerPoint presentation. Next slide, please. And then my last program is a really easy and really fun craft that can be done for as little as $20 for 14 participants. The prep isn't difficult, but it can be a little time consuming, especially if you're like me and you're kind of nervous about giving hammers to customers. So I did all of the prep of nailing the patterns beforehand. So what you do is you start out, I purchased a 2x6x12 board and had it cut into 5.5-inch squares. And then you choose a pattern, print it out, tape it to the block of wood, and then the nails are kind of small and you have to put them close together. So I found that tweezers were really helpful in kind of holding them in place while you start hammering them. And then you just hammer it around the border of what you're wanting to do. And then you take off the paper and just start winding your string around one nail and then do whatever sort of pattern that you want for the rest of it. On this example here, the heart over Tulsa was the best place to start, because once you do the weaving around the rest of the state, it's kind of hard to get in there. But it's handy to have one that's completed to demonstrate, and then one that you can use to show them how to get started. This craft is really great for all skill levels, and everyone finished in about an hour, and they all had a lot of fun. And that is my presentation.
Okay, so we have another poll. Which of Carissa's programs are you most interested in trying out at your library? Novel Talk, Writing Group / Programming, Book Club Party, Creative Bullet Journaling, and Mini String and Nail Art. The nail art is the cutest thing, just by the way.
It was really fun.
Let's see. Looks like, oh, far and away, the nail art came out on top. So hopefully folks will be trying that one out. Thank you, Carissa. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the presentation over to our next presenter, Caitlin Seagraves.
Hello, my name is Caitlin Seagraves. I work at Central Library, where I run the Digital Literacy Lab for Tulsa City County Library. And today I've got 5 programs to talk about, the first of which are 3 of our Maker Monday programs. So if you could head to the next slide. For Maker Monday, it's a series we do where we invite customers one Monday a month to do a facilitated crafting program together. It's usually 90 minutes, and we try to keep it fairly inexpensive. The book wreaths program cost about $20 for 20 adults. All we really had to provide was a foam wreath ring, which you can find at Dollar Tree for about $1 a piece. We use withdrawn library materials and hot glue guns. It is a little burny for the fingers if people are clumsy, so be mindful of that. And we also encourage people to bring their own hot glue guns, because I don't know about your library, but we do not have 20 hot glue guns laying around. But for this program, I usually put on a fun playlist and we kind of just walk through each step together. I've actually linked to a program guide that has step-by-step instructions for how to make the wreaths. But this is always wildly popular when we have it. We usually have a wait list and have to plan a second one or a third one to get everybody through. But it's good year round. You don't have to do it just during the holidays. During the spring, you can put flowers, or if you prep far enough ahead of time, you can even paint the book edges ahead of time to add some extra color to it. The next Maker Monday program we do is vision boards. This one, we also collect withdrawn library materials. For this, we collect both periodicals and monographs, especially stuff that has more colorful pictures in it. And we get together and we put together a vision board. So start off the program by talking about what a vision board is. And for mine, I always have my vision board that I've made about vision boards, just so people can get a visual of what we're going to be doing. I always put together a playlist of kind of upbeat, peppy songs, and this is something we usually do towards the beginning of the year, back in January when we had such promise for 2020. But this is a pretty inexpensive program. You just need poster board for it, and the half size are a much better size. I haven't tried this virtually, but I think this is something that could be done via Zoom, maybe with like a Google Jamboard. So that's something I might play around with if I'm feeling brave in the next few weeks. The third program we do as part of our Maker Monday series is a stop motion animation. This can actually be done with any age group, and is especially fun with adults because they do some of the weirdest videos I've seen. But for this program, we have a set of tablets that I've downloaded an app called Stop Motion Studio 2. It is a free app, so you can encourage attendees to download it to their own devices if you don't have tablets laying around. And then for the rest of the supplies, I just use whatever we have laying around the library. I go to the children's closet and raid all of their toys and the creepy dolls and puppets, all sorts of things. You can use clay, you can use whatever crafting supplies you have left over from previous programs. And I start out by doing a quick presentation on what stop motion is, some popular examples of stop motion that people might recognize, and then how to use the app. And then just spend the rest of the class making the videos. One pro tip if you do this is to make sure you collect the videos at the end. That way if you have further or future stop motion sessions, you can use those videos to advertise, or you can share some of the creations to your social media accounts and show people what you did during your program. The fourth program is a series of tech talks that we do. This is something that we used to do in person back when the library was open, usually Fridays at noon. I have moved it onto the Zoom platform as kind of a live webinar. So every Friday at noon, we invite people for kind of a lunch and learn, and we have different tech topics that we talk about. For this program, I utilize both a combination of like staff members who are technology experts or have particular interests, like we have a graphic designer on staff. I invite community members, different technologists around town to come talk about some sort of topic like machine learning or cryptocurrency, something that I have no idea how to talk about. Or we'll have library staff talk about library resources, or even like a lecture of something of interest. We've done stuff on like spotting misinformation online. I did one on the history of memes that's kind of fun to put together. But some topics that have been pretty popular are classes on video editing, digital archiving, privacy is always super popular, and really any productivity tools. People are always looking for new tools to utilize in their work. The last program that I wanted to talk about is a Library 101 class. For this, we actually have this program for our literacy students and tutors, but I think it can be very easily adapted to the general public. For this class, we invite a cohort of library users to come through and do a 6-week series of classes. Usually the classes last anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes, and each week we focus on a different type of topic. So the first week, we did like an introduction to library services where we talked about how you can sign up for a library card, how you can search our catalog, how you can find books in the stacks, and kind of an overview of how the library works. We're a pretty large system, so people may not realize we have like a public relations department or a finance department, and just kind of walk through the basics. The second week, we did a focus on collection development. So people actually got to go to our support services center and see kind of the life cycle of a book, see it go through acquisitions and cataloging, physical processing, and then see it get sent to a branch. The third week, we did a focus on research services. So we talked about how our research ticketing system works. We talked about different special collections. Our Oklahoma room is always really popular with visitors. And then also reference collections and databases that we have access to. And then for the last couple of sessions, we focused on some of our other specialty areas like the makerspace and the digital literacy lab that we have at Central Library. This really could be adapted to any size library or any type of library. You could do a week where you have meet the director or an AMA with like a research librarian, or you could even do like the day in the life of a children's librarian. Just have fun with it, adapt it for your needs, and just try to create library power users or library advocates. It's kind of a fun program. So I think we've got one more poll for you.
Yes, so now I'm not going to read all the options this time because you all can read. Which of Caitlin's programs are you most interested in trying out at your library? I mentioned this in the chat, but the book reads, I mean, and Caitlin mentioned it as well, it fills up so fast. Like, people love that program like no other. Okay, book wreaths, and a very close second with Tech Talks. Awesome.
And one thing I forgot to mention about Tech Talks is we record them and upload them to our YouTube channel for later, so you can see all of my awkward lectures from weeks past.
Alrighty, so now we are going to turn it over to Donna Hauk from Norman Public Library.
All right. Hi, as she said, I'm Donna Hauk, and I work in information services at the Norman Public Library. And I'm just going to say I'm having like this nightmare because there's a fly buzzing me. What the heck, right? Anyways, Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So adult self-defense was a no-cost one-time adult program. The University of Oklahoma Police Department has a wide variety of safety and self-defense classes that they provide at no cost to the community. I coordinated with the department and they sent an officer over for the event. He taught the audience a few self-defense moves, and then they were able to get up and practice with the police officer at that point. Additionally, he discussed what to do in a variety of dangerous situations. And then the last topic he went over was if you use a gun for self-protection, how the law applies to you. The program had 20 in attendance, and it was a great blend of information and activities. If you're interested in hosting a similar event, I recommend you reach out to some of your local law enforcement agencies, or these classes I referred to from the police department are also available. Some of them are available online through their website. So next slide, please. So this is one of our more popular programs. Dog and Cat Days of Summer is a yearly come and go event that's free and open to all ages. I spent under $100 to provide water bottles because it's a hot summer day, and I created 2 door prize baskets. 20 pet organizations had informational booths where they shared information about their mission and provided giveaways. The library hosted 3 booths, One was a dog toy DIY dog craft booth. Another one was a green screen photo op station with fun backgrounds. And the Friends group had a mini animal themed book sale. Petco provided dog treats for making doggy goodie bags. St. Francis Animal Resource Center provided microchip services at cost. And then the very popular thing was the Norman Animal Welfare and Second Chance Sanctuary brought dogs available for adoption. At the last event, we had 4 dogs adopted. And these were just a few of the organizations that came to the event. We had 200 people and 20 dogs in attendance at the 3-hour event on a Saturday morning. If you're interested in doing something similar, I would recommend you research organizations in your area, because I was really surprised when I started looking into it to see how many different organizations were out there and that they were willing to share their pet welfare missions with us. So next slide, please. I want to tell you about 2 different cooking programs we have at the Norman Central Library. Going strong for, it's hard to believe, 15 years is the annual cookbook swap and shop. It features a cookbook sale that's sponsored by the Friends of the Library. It has a cooking demonstration, and then we have tasty food samples from the demonstration. Past presenters have been local chefs, cookbook authors, and we've even had staff members step in. The cost is usually under $200. Most of it goes to the food samples with a small stipend for the presenter. And we usually have between 75 to 100 in attendance for this. Another fun cooking program is Cooking the Books, a cookbook club that meets once a month for about 2 hours. Each club member prepares a sample of a dish from a library cookbook that they reviewed. They bring that dish to the club meeting, and then we eat, and then it's a really tough job, but we get to eat. That's the fun part. And then we review the cookbooks and we review the recipes. So the library usually provides plates, utensils, and beverages. We usually have about 10 to 15 in attendance, and the cost is under $15 a month. Next slide, please. Wellness Wednesday is a new ongoing program that we started in January. So we've hosted a variety of exercise programs in the past, but this was a slightly different approach. The concept is that every Wednesday at 9 in the morning, there is some type of fitness activity going on at the library. Initially, the organizer had yoga for 4 weeks, and then she led the group on a urban hike, and then she had a few sessions devoted to the ancient mind-body practice of Qigong. Don't ask me how to say that again. So anyways, the cost of this program has ranged between free to $200 based upon if an instructor had to be hired. Although it's a new event, we have a loyal following already coming, or we did, And if you're interested in hosting a similar program, it's really great because the sky's the limit with so many potential fitness choices out there. And our goal is not to always have a paid instructor, but more to mix it up and keep exercise and fitness fun. All right, next slide, please. Dress for Success is a worldwide organization that provides job-appropriate attire for women, resume assistance, and interview prep. I reached out to Oklahoma City representative, and for the event, she presented a free 2-hour informational program about their services and how potential clients could use their services. So for them to be able to use their services, a client fills out an application with a referring agency. Referring agencies are diverse nonprofit organizations such as churches and women's shelters and libraries. And to become a referring agency, it's actually just another short application. The Pioneer Library System applied, and now if we're approached by a potential job seeker, we can help them apply for their services. They have OKC and Tulsa locations. Unfortunately, they do not service the rural areas in our state right now. So if you're interested in something similar to this, I would recommend you reach out to technical schools, community colleges, county extension offices, or charitable organizations. And I don't know if, just a side note that's not in my presentation, but they are getting ready to open their Oklahoma City branch again after they had gotten their building destroyed a few months ago. So keep your eyes on that too. So anyways, that's all I have for you today. If we go to the poll. Thank you.
So go ahead and chime in with which of Donna's programs you'd like to try out at your library. Let's see. Okay, no surprise. Dog and cat.
Dogs always win, right?
Right. I feel like any pet-related event is gonna attract a crowd. So, alrighty. So we are gonna turn it over to our final presenter, Jamie Hale.
Hi, I'm Jamie Hale. I am an information services librarian at the Norman Public Library Central Branch with the Pioneer Library System. And next slide. My first program is our poetry contest and celebration in honor of National Poetry Month in April. The contest runs from mid-March to mid-April, and it was open to 3 categories: adult, high school, and middle school. People could submit up to 3 poems, and then they're given to a panel of judges. And then we had the celebration at the end of April. And anyone who submitted a poem was invited to attend, and anyone who wanted to could choose to read their poem out loud. And then the winners were announced, prizes were given out. We had a pretty high budget for this, and it all went to the prizes, which were gift cards, and we didn't serve any snacks, we just had water. And we did prizes for 1st through 5th place in each category, but if you're working with a smaller budget, you could just do 1st through 3rd. And we combined this with teens, but obviously you could do it just for adults. And unfortunately, we couldn't hold it this year, but it's always a popular program, and we usually have around 100 people in attendance. And next slide, please. So next is Name That Hamiltune, which I'm sure you could guess is Name That Tune with Hamilton songs. The tour and production of Hamilton came to Oklahoma City last August, and I wanted to do a program to tie into that. So we did this in July. We had 34 in attendance, and people could play on teams of up to 5. And we did 3 rounds with audio clips from the musical, and teams would write down their answers. And then after each round, we'd take a break so I could tally the scores. And we did prizes for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place. And the one of our computer guys actually created the clips for me using Audacity. So I'm a big Hamilton fan, so I had a lot of fun planning this program. And we actually had one team who got every single question right. All right, next slide, please. So Men Reading Romance Novels is a really entertaining and low budget program. It occurs around Valentine's Day, and we have male staff members from the Pioneer Library System reading aloud from romance novels. And we have a wide variety of content from the kind of fade to black type scenes to the more racier stuff. And so this is definitely for adults only. And our PR materials stated that the program would feature mature content. And the budget just went to snacks and decorations. And we usually average about 25 in attendance. And everyone has a good time. There's always a lot of laughs. And I think it's a great way to promote our collection. So next slide. So Cosplay 101 featured a panel of cosplayers from the DC Marvel League of Oklahoma City chapter, and I believe they have a chapter in Tulsa as well. So they just discussed like how they got into cosplay, where they buy their costumes, materials, wigs, etc. And they took questions from the audience. We had about 36 in attendance, and this was a completely free program as they are a charity group, so they required no appearance fee, and we didn't serve any snacks, again, just water. I really enjoyed hosting this because it was something, kind of program I'd never done before, and the audience seemed to get a lot out of it. And next slide. And last is Harry Potter trivia. We did this on a July 31st, which is Harry's birthday. So we ordered a birthday cake and served butterbeer. We had 61 in attendance, and like the Hamilton program, you could play on teams of up to 5. And this time we did a Jeopardy format, and teams could take turns picking a category, and I had laminated answer sheets and dry erase markers. So I'd ask a question, give them about a minute to answer, and then have them hold up their sheets. And I had other staff members on hand to help me keep track of the scores. And this was also a pretty high budget because we had the cake and we had prizes. And I will say it was a little chaotic trying to keep track of the scores with such a big group of people. But I mean, everyone still had a good time. And, you know, Harry Potter events will always draw a crowd. And that's it for my programs.
Hey, our last poll. Which of Jamie's programs are you most interested in trying out?
Right, and it looks like we've got about 3 minutes left in the session. I did see a question for Caitlin regarding the software for the stop motion program.
So I use an app called Stop Motion Studio. I think it's like the first thing that pops up in the App Store, and it's free, which is super great.
Like Men Reading Romance Novels came in first.
I have to admit, that surprises me. I figured it'd be Hamilton. Yeah.
I did want to note that the handouts that we're providing as part of this presentation, they talk about different ways to scale each program depending on your budget. So there's like a very free version, a minimalist version, and then like a maximalist version. So we're hoping that most of these programs can be adapted to just about any library.
We do have a couple more minutes. If people have any other questions, they can put it in the chat.
I did see someone had a question about how to do the string art virtually. You can do it as a take and make kit, so you can prepare the board beforehand, include about 3 to 3.5 feet of string in there, and then everything else is good to go because you've prepped it beforehand. And then you could record a video on how to get started. So that's the best way to do it.
Yes. I saw a question also about speed friending in the Zoom format and whether you would use breakout rooms. I think that would be the most effective way to do it. You could break the attendees down into rooms of 2 or 3 people and give them a set amount of time to chat, and then just kind of rotate around so that everybody gets to meet everyone. Thank you all for coming. I think I can speak for everybody and say it was fun to talk about some of the programs that we've had success with at our locations.
And once again, if you have any extra time, we'd really appreciate it if you would take a couple minutes to do the session survey, which I put in the chat. So we always appreciate your feedback. And I hope everyone enjoys the rest of the conference and has a great day.
Yes. I think the last slide has our contact information on it. Just in case you want to reach out and ask any more specific questions.